Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. We are here giving you guys a debrief. Yes, a debrief of what happened between myself and Patricia. As always, I think you guys were asking for it. I'm gonna try to do it for the rest of the season. Give you guys a debrief after the interview has been done to give my honest, unfiltered opinions and thoughts of it all. Listen, keep it cute, keep it classy in the chat as always, but please like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notifications on the bell button for those of you, who are new here. Okay, and for those of you returnees, you really know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. Don't forget, you can join our membership. It's £1 or $1 and support the channel. And also, as well, you can get involved as well with the Patreon. Click on the description box down below and grab your merchandise on this channel. Mineral gang. All right, listen. Let me get straight into it because I don't want to waste much time. If you watched the interview, myself and Patricia, then fantastic. If you didn't, then you're going to miss out on this. You might want to watch it first, then watch this, right? But let me jump straight 2 feet in. Sean, what's your overall thoughts on this interview? What's your thoughts of Patricia? How did you find her to be on this interview?
Well, I'm in my new me era, okay? So I'm going to start off with the grace, So, I thought she, good sport, lovely of her to kind of come on and, grab the bull by the horns. I think I saw a little bit of her, an edge, though. I did see an edge with the sister, but, I said it in the chat. I'm going to attribute some of that to New York City, because I too am from New York City, so I can kind of peep a little bit of that, that edge that you have to have to survive. And then, when she was talking about her upbringing and, the way she navigated life and, went through, getting the things that she wanted to get, I think she's a go-getter. So I think that's sometimes that's that energy that we saw from her. But my opinion didn't change as much because I think she's a little premature in calling herself healed. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that sometimes when we go through therapy, and I say we because I've been through therapy and leveraged several different therapists while married, outside of marriage. And I think that sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking that we've done work, and we have done the work and we have done work. Because there's difference when we've done the work that we've needed to do to be fully actualized and when we've done work. When we've done work, which is we started to unpack some of the things about ourselves and started to make changes. So I think that I can see the work in her, but I think we shouldn't proclaim victory just yet because there's still things for her to do, some self-awareness, things that I think she missed, and some of the questions that you were asking. Some of, I still didn't understand why she had such an emotional reaction. She explained it, but I still don't understand that. So those are some of the things that, I think that Patricia, I see some ego, some ego there, especially in the way she was talking about some of the other guys. I kind of didn't like that because I really don't like that when you have to tear somebody else down to lift yourself up. So, yeah, my thoughts.
Yeah, bro, I definitely hear what you're saying. I think it was a great interview in terms of just having good conversation. Like, I loved her therapy aspect. And her just really breaking down her thought process and learning the links between childhood and her adulthood, right? And kind of really giving us an insight into who she was. And I didn't have to do that myself. She literally did that herself. She brought that to the table, and I appreciate her being able to do that. I think what was also interesting is in amongst that, I think for me, like you said, there is a little bit of an ego. I think we all have one, but yes, it raises head in different ways. Myself, Sean, there's ego in me, so and it locks you in. That's just the honest truth. Like when you have an ego, it locks you in, and it locks you usually into a win-loss battle. And the ego wants you to have a win or loss situation. It doesn't do nuance. It can only take a win or a loss. That's why it's there. And so it feels a bit like she had to. Oh, my mic's a bit low. Okay, let me bring my mic close to me. It feels a bit like she had to make the scenario and situation a win-loss. So when everything was being discussed about how she deals, how she was dealing with the show and what happened, the win-loss came into situational play, which was, well, it's production. The boys actually wanted, almost like saying that the boys didn't actually vote for me. Someone else wanted to actually go, which I'm not going to say is not happening. I'm sure it is. It happens every season that maybe someone else was meant to go, right? But in amongst that, there was something about you though that still would have rubbed some people the wrong way, right? Or didn't go well because the men actually spoke about it. So, clearly there were some issues there at least. So it made it a win-loss in terms of I have to show and prove that I wasn't the one that was meant to let go. And I even took that out the equation. I said to her, take that out the equation. I don't think you're meant to go. I believe you. I agree. I don't even want you to even show receipts. I believe what you're saying. What about how you impacted though the people in there? And I don't think she could see that just yet. I think that maybe that will come with time. I think that will come with time. But I also think as well, sometimes, like, she said, positive reinforcement makes people do the same thing over and over again. If nobody's told her that her attitude at this point doesn't work in a relationship or doesn't work for certain men, then you also are going to have the same problem that those men are going to have, which is positive reinforcement of the good that you do, but not bring out the fact that you have some do that you have in some of your attitudes. And that's all of us. We all have what we call blind spots. Mine is my own is my own ego. That's a blind spot. I cannot see over my shoulder in that way because I've got an ego. So sometimes I won't see certain situations in that way. I'll see it from a win-loss perspective. And I think that played a part in the conversation as well. So I think it's just instinct to observe it from that perspective,
Yeah, I think, and that's when it comes, like, for me, I picked on, it's self-awareness. And I trust me, I have empathy for these people. I mean, I get it a little bit sometimes, just, being on the channel, being in the YouTube streets, where you have people who tell you about yourself and some things just aren't accurate, right? But I think you also have to leave room for how people not just perceive, but receive you.
Receive is a good word. Yeah.
And I think that is a hard thing to do sometimes because it makes us face some difficult truths, because how people receive us, sometimes it's tough, right? And that means you and especially for somebody that has started to do work on themselves or is doing work on themselves, you feel like, I'm addressing these things, but I'm not this. No, maybe inside you feel like it, right? But you're still being received that way. And I think when people start to do work on themselves, sometimes we overcorrect, but we kind of lead with it, if I'm making sense. Or we feel like to work on our trauma means we start talking about it too. So I think there were two things, like, listen, can you talk about going to therapy on a date? Sure, you can. But if you want to start talking about all the bad situations that you've been in and the trauma that you've been through and what you're not going to do no more, and dating has worn you out, like those it just doesn't instill and bring out warm and fuzzy feelings. And for you, yes, that's been part of your journey and the work that you've needed to do, but everybody else doesn't need to hear that part of your story because it doesn't matter to them. It matters to you. And you don't need to catch me up on all the trauma that you had so that I can know where you are today. Just let me see you for who you are today, and you experience me for who I am today, right? And I think as we grow deeper in our relationship, sure, can we share some things that we've been through? But if at the first meetings or the first few times I start saying, listen, I done been through some ish, I had some hills to climb to get here. Nobody wants to hear that. So I think that may be something that anybody that does that, you might want to just put a pin in that.
Yeah, no, I think, and it's so interesting because I think, I think when you look at it from a perspective of myself, even like I remember I've heard one or two times where someone said to me, or a girl said to me, like, you know that you sometimes the way you have a conversation is like you're auditioning them, or maybe you're analyzing them too deeply. And I'm like, I'm just having a conversation. I was like, I'm just having a conversation about relationship. They're like, no, it feels like sometimes you're like really deeply, rootly analyzing me. And I was like, what? I'm just having a conversation. But then I had to go back over it, and I was like, well, now that person has just said how they felt about the situation, and I don't like how they spoke about it, but is there some truth to what they're saying? Well, technically, this is my job. That's what I do on a day-to-day basis. Could it be that actually comes out when I'm talking to people? Absolutely yes. And when a second person said it, I said, "Oh, frick, yeah. I need to figure out why I'm doing that, because that's not the nicest place to be in. Do you know what I mean?" And I realized it's because I don't turn off that part of my brain. That part of my brain which analyzes is analyzing every second of every minute. Even in intimacy, I'm analyzing. It's just mad. Like, I don't turn it off. So when then I go to speak, I go to speak from an analytical point of view, right? Even though I think to myself, oh, I'm quite an emotional person when I speak. Yeah, but I'm also very analytical. So it feels like I'm analyzing the person every time I'm speaking to them. And so instead of actually having a conversation now it's an analysis, right? So that's a weak point that I have. I have to accept it. It's just it just is what it is. Like, I don't like it, but it is what it is. That's how I come across to some people, right? And so you have to be aware of that, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. If you know that's how you're coming across, sometimes the case of just apologizing, sometimes also a case of like, you know what, that is part of me. And I think and the funny thing is, when she said it in the beginning about when she was working, and said about how, about being in work, and some people call it saying that she can be very direct, but she was talking about the white folk. And listen, don't get it twisted, white folk will always, be white folking. But the reality was, they mentioned that you be very direct. And that is also what we experienced. And so I think that is what I'm saying about, really trying to deep the aspect of understanding that when people are saying something and you hear it more than once, especially, you're gonna need to, Diamante is here. Shout out to Diamante. Yeah, Diamante, hit me up in my DMs, bro. I will send you my email. But yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like, we just needed you to open your eyes and see that maybe you're not seeing it right, and maybe you're not understanding that you're not being received as Demonte. Sorry, I said Diamante. Apologies, Demonte. You're not being received in the way that you think you are. You know what I mean? Go for it, Sean. Sorry, I should say go for it.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, and I picked up on that too. And when we were talking about this in the last time we had a panel discussion, and I was talking about how I prefer not to say certain things when it comes to women's looks, because I know it's a sticking point, right? And I'd rather not say it than say it. I think this is another thing as well. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't say it. I'm saying it is a tricky conversation to have.
Yes.
Because in the workplace, people of color and women of color, especially, get microaggressions. And that's what she was talking about. Yep. But I think sometimes, not all times, sometimes we interpret everything as a microaggression, and sometimes it's just feedback. Sometimes it's just feedback, and sometimes it's and feedback is not the easiest thing to receive. But trust me, I don't think it means that it's not always meant to tear you down. It doesn't mean that every time somebody gives you something that says, hey, listen, you kind of came off a little rough around the edges. I don't think we should just necessarily throw it in the bucket of, oh, they're just, this just because I'm a black person. Maybe just have you heard that before? Have your black friends told you that before? Have you ever heard anybody else say it? I'm just saying, Like, because, and it's not to say if 3 people say the same thing, that makes it true, but I think it's worth examining. Because if you've heard it a couple of times, maybe it's real. Oh, and Dee, 100%, I know microaggressions are very real. I'm just saying sometimes we can be hypersensitive to things. And because we have a hyper awareness of something, when we hear feedback that seems like it might fall in that category, we might just automatically dump it right in there and we dismiss it when maybe there's some value in what the person was sharing. So I'm just saying, you know, it might be something worthy of paying attention to, because we did see her show up here in that kind of very direct, kind of punchy kind of way. And we are a predominantly Black audience. And many other sisters had similar feedback in the comments to what they were saying as well. And I think sometimes, and this is like while I'm on my journey of how to give feedback better, sometimes it's how we give that feedback too, right? So I think it's being delicate to understand, like, the feedback isn't an indictment. It doesn't make you a bad person. And I think sometimes when people hear a criticism, it becomes like you're saying I'm bad, or you're saying I'm all this and I'm all that. And it's not about that. It's about, this is how you are showing up. This is how we are perceiving you and the words that you are saying. And it's a feeling. And I think sometimes it's a delicate dance to do this. You know, it's a delicate dance of how we can give somebody feedback and then they have to receive it, and, you know, how we are able to deliver that. But I think there were times when she was very open, but I think when there were times where she just felt like, no, you're wrong, about, especially when it came to, I think towards the end of the interview, and you were trying to unpack, you know, the accountability part and what she could do better, and, you know, what she learned, she kind of struggled with that because she felt like the process was wrong, OWN was wrong, the show was wrong, they fed me a dream that wasn't reality. And it's like, I almost tire, you know, and this is why I'm just going to be gloves off and just totally unfiltered. Like, I'm just tired of people coming on. And I mean, listen, I love a lot of, you know, the Ready to Love folks. I've engaged with a good handful of them. But if one more person comes on here and tells me they've never watched the show and they've had this utopian vision of what Ready to Love is going to be, then, well, that might have been your learning lesson. There's like, what, 9 seasons now? And they're everywhere. Watch a few seasons, please. These are most 90% of these people are professional people. Watch a season. Please don't go blindly on the show and tell me you had no idea, because, yeah, I'm tired of hearing that, Coach. I'm tired of it.
No, I get you still. Like, yo, it's funny because, you know, and like I said, this is always tough because this is, like I said, we're doing a debrief and we're trying to be also responsible and delicate with how we also dissect this, because I don't want it to be, you know, we're trampling on her, but I want it to be also understanding that there was more to the eye that we saw. And I think when you watch the interview again, if you just watch the part where I was kind of pushing a little bit to try and get her to understand that, hey, let's reconsider this position. What impact are you making on people, right? And trying to get her to see, once she got, there was some, I didn't even call out the body language. The body language was telling me everything. She was uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. It got to a point where she was sitting like this. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. So I was like, well, if I'm getting that, more than likely the men will also getting the same thing. And as you've heard me say before, most people that come onto an interview don't do any different to what they did on the show. The show just highlights drastic parts of your personality or your actions that you do, because they already know who you are. That's why they can highlight those things. So it looks like they're being mean to you when they highlight those things, but in reality, they know who you are. So they can highlight that thing and leave everything else out, and make it a negative, if you want to call it that, right? So it was really interesting that in that moment, because I also understood that as I'm prodding, it's going to feel like an attack a little bit, right? Because she doesn't see anything wrong at that moment. And I'm saying to you, have you not seen? And I think where the extra step could have been would have been, the extra step would have been, I know she was asking me for, and this is when I knew that she wasn't listening to me, because she asked me for what is it that I'm seeing? And I said to her, it's the tone, it's the energy, and it's the delivery. And when I finished, she asked me the question a second time after she'd answered her particular question and asked, what is it that you're hearing? And I said, and that's when she went a bit sharp. She's like, you didn't even answer the question. And I was like, well, if you were listening, you would have actually heard it, which means you stopped listening. And because I made it very, very clear, I don't even say I spoke slowly, but I was very intentional with the way I was trying to deliver it, because I also wasn't trying to, bush bash. This is not one of those, it wasn't one of those interviews that was set up that way. So, I wanted to take my time with it and be like, hey, look, just the energy, the tone, and the delivery, the way you're delivering your content is wrong. That maybe not even say wrong, it can be done better. And it wasn't the fact that you couldn't say no to toes, or it wasn't the fact that obviously you couldn't say you don't want to talk about sex. You can do all those things, but there's a way to slay a cat. There's a way to skin a cat, sorry. And there are many different ways. And so I also understand that there's a pressure. You're live, you're on internet, that everyone's kind of seeing you. That can also be a very difficult thing to receive in that time. But it reminded me, we had conversations with Tabari, we had conversations with Donald, I had conversations with Cam, right? And maybe Cam a little bit shirked a little bit, but he came round. But Donald specifically and Tabari, when I gave them the feedback, just took it on. But when I gave it to Patricia, the wall came straight up, right? That guard came straight up. So, obviously critique hits differently for different people, and people have gone through different experiences. So I want to be fair to her on that respect. But just watching how she, when she said that comment about, you weren't listening, then also said as well, I can't remember the jab. She hit me with a little jab. It was a little quick one. It was a very quick jab, and I said, "Oh, you hit me with a jab there, like, you know what I mean?"
Said something like, "I want to help you to get what you want," or something like that. Or, "I'm trying to help you solve it. Yeah, I'm trying to solve it for you," or something. She said like that.
Yes, that was it. And I was like, "Why do you want to help me to solve it? We're having a conversation. I want you to see that maybe there's another perspective here." So I was being gentle with the prodding, because that's what we do here. We're gonna prod. And I wanted you to walk with me in a journey. That's why I was like, come, let's look at this. Let's see this differently. You know what I mean? And actually, you can end this so quickly by just saying, do you know what? I never really saw it, but you know what? I need to go back and look over it. That would have ended the conversation. What else can I say? If you tell me this, I'm going to go back and look over it and be like, I'm going to look over this and just kind of see. Maybe I'll get your point. I can't go anywhere. I can't be like, well, let's go again, because, no, it's done, because you just told me you're going to look over it. Finished. Right, so I could see that I had touched something, but I get it. It's not easy, you know what I mean? It's not easy, but that's why I didn't want to go too hard, because I just knew it wasn't going to go nowhere. It's like when I do it with Sharice, I know Sharice, so I can do that, but I couldn't go that hard with her, because even that, and for me it's simple. Your intention versus your impact is different. I don't even want to jump back in, Sean.
You know what? And as you were talking, and I think this is when it resonated to me, because backstage, I have said to you, I still don't understand. And I said it, I think I said in the beginning when we came on live too, it just didn't make sense to me why she cried, but now I understand why she cried. Because if you would have continued down that path with her and the questioning and continue to push her buttons and try to press her to face certain things, she might have done the same thing. And I think that's because she's afraid of being vulnerable in that sense, because I don't think she's found value, or it hasn't been a safe space for her to be vulnerable, whether it's with men or just in life in general. So I think she has to, like, even when you asked her, is there anything you're working on? Is there anything you want to share with us? Anything we should look out for? She says, no, I'm not an actor. I don't need to do any of that stuff. And it's like, okay, you don't have to be an actor, but there could be things that you're working on. Or you could say, no, I don't have anything, I'm just, wish me luck on my journey in my career and, my journey for love, whatever it may be. But that kind of defense is because she still has that hurt. And thank you, Aries. She did say rejection. That's what I saw. I didn't really hear that coming out from her. And maybe I missed it because she can be very guarded. But I think that is that. And that's what it is. It's because vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. And I think there's actually strength in being vulnerable and just saying, hey, listen, when you say it outright, it just, first of all, this is what I learned on my journey of just being vulnerable and open. It's like, I can sit here and fight with you about why you think what you think about me, but then I could say, hey, listen, I've learned this, and maybe I just haven't seen that. It's easier. And I might not even agree with you, but I'm not having to still go toe to toe and fight and try to defend myself, because that takes energy, because that takes energy and an attachment that we just don't need. And to be honest, the truthfulness of it, being vulnerable and truly knowing who you are, knowing your weaknesses, there's strength in that, because you're getting out ahead of it and you're able to better navigate life. And just being open, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, it hurt my feelings. It would hurt my feelings. If I got eliminated first and I thought there was a chance for me, like my feelings were legitimately hurt, I would have loved to have stayed there. No need to talk about the men and there's no men equality and they all were this and they all were that. Hey, your feelings were hurt. And that's okay. Now we can relate with you because we've all been there. Everyone, no one can say they've never felt hurt, rejected in their life at any point, right? So we can identify that, and then that's the people that are able to tap on that. Those are the people that we can kind of empathize even more with, because we can see you. Like when what's his name, Tabari said, it hurt his feelings the way Vern spoke to him. Right? We were able to really fully get it. And he said, that's why I sat there, because I just didn't feel like I deserved to be spoken to that way. Right? Now we get it because it resonates with us and we can have empathy for you. If he would have just said, because I didn't feel like getting up, and because I can, right? It's like, oh, okay, bro, you got a lot of problems, right? It's because it's like, come on, just be honest with us. Tell us what it is. And that's what I just would have liked to see more from her.
Yeah, and listen, you nailed it there, bro. I can't lie to you. And listen, look, here's the thing. We have to talk about some real stuff here. I didn't challenge on this because I thought, if you can't do the first part, we ain't going to the second part, right? Let me say this now. Patricia's fine. I'm talking about all types of fine. I thought when I saw her, I said she's even finer here than she was on the show. Yeah? She a baddie. Yeah? Okay. Now, when you're a baddie, and you thought all the men were beneath you, and I say that with black and white, doesn't mean that literally she was thinking they're beneath her, but none of these men match your spec. Yeah? Where you have to really be honest is that when you got rejected by them, you're pissed. We hear women say this all the time. There ain't nothing more annoying than being rejected by an ugly nigger. We know. Yeah? Let's keep it a buck, let's keep it 100. It hurts that somebody who you feel like is beneath you is not on your level, not on your looks level. They might not even have the same intelligence, maybe not have the same money, etc., right? Has the audacity to reject you. And that's not beef. That's not beef at all. We actually get it, right? That's both men and women as well, too. We do it as men as well. I didn't want your ass anyway. You know what I mean? We know already, right? It's the first day. You're probably looking at your competition. You're thinking to yourself, I'm a baddie. You know what I mean? I'm a baddie. I should be able to get through this stage, right? And that's cool. No beef. Because you're looking at your competition, you're judging yourself, and that's what we all do as human beings. We compare ourselves. And you're looking at the men, and you go to yourself, this is not even really my spec. Yeah? Now, I tried to point this out to her by saying, hey, you actually let us know that none of the guys really, you were feeling them. None of them. And I said, well, if none of the guys you were feeling, do you think that your sentiment or your way you behaved or the way that you came across might have actually also shown up to the guys that you weren't feeling them? Right? So now they're going to look at you even more critically. I think sometimes what happens with some women, not all, is that they assume men are dumb. Even though she said that I don't think men are that are too complicated. They're simple, right? But you think we're really simple. To the fact that we can't see, like we've had conversations before, that when you like us, we know what we like you for. Or when you like us for our money, or when you like us, these men know. They're just being ignorant about it, right? They want to be ignorant about it because they want to keep you. But in reality, if we're really being honest as men, when you are in tune, you know when a girl likes you for you. You know, right? I know when a girl really, really likes me for me. I know the comments that come out of her mouth. I know the things that she says, right? You start hearing it. When someone's attracted to you, you start hearing some of the compliments that come out their mouth. And it's different to somebody who just thinks, you know what, maybe you're a nice guy and I need a man. When you're a nice guy and I need a man, they drop the handsome and the one or two little things in there, yeah? But when a girl is desiring, she's like, you're sexy. Yeah, the wording changes because they see you differently. So men are not dumb. We are not stupid. We actually do read energy really, really well, right? We just don't communicate that we read it very well to you in a way that you understand, but we do read it really well. So when someone's not feeling us, right, we oftentimes can respond to the fact that you're not feeling us. So if I feel like you're not really interested in me, guess what's going to happen? Am I going to put in 100% into you? I'm clearly not. And I tried to highlight that to her by saying, Jonathan did the same thing for Rashina as he did for you. It had nothing to do with the fact that you're not beautiful, right? Had nothing to do with the fact that you're not beautiful, right? And it had nothing to do with the fact you're dark skinned either, because Rashina was light skinned. And clearly he liked Maya, he liked Laylene. So if it was really about being light skinned, it would have been Rashina who got on with. But the moment that Rashina said to him that, you know what, I'm not a great dater and started bringing negative energy, he couldn't deal with it. Right? He gets affected by negative energy. I'm not sure why it is. Same thing with Patricia. As soon as she came with a negative energy, he too also stopped. Now he's giving dry. Yeah, he's giving dry conversation, because as a man, when you're looking at a situation and I'm talking to you, right, and I'm not paying attention to the energy you're giving me, I'm the fool. Right? If I go to you at a bar and I start talking to you and you start smiling and giving me energy, and I said this to her as well, and you give me that good energy, I'm going to push further. If I now start talking and you don't smile and you're huffing and puffing, the only people that continue past that place is absolute dogs. Because the rest of us who are actually sensible, we're like, well, bro, she doesn't like me. Let me stop. She's huffing and puffing. She's looking away. You know, she's doing things that are showing me she's not really interested. And it's like, men do understand these things. So when you think that you are getting away with it because you were able to act, because you were telling every people that were acting, you were also acting. You didn't feel any of the guys. So when you were acting, you thought you could act out of the situation. And that's why she said, yeah, but none of the men would have seen that. Yeah, no. You thought your acting was good enough that you would actually deceive us as a man on the other side, that we didn't see that you aren't interested in us. Right? Because we also understand what someone being interested in us looks like and feels like. So she doesn't realize that you can't outsmart these people. The same way I shouldn't be able to outsmart women, because if you're really reading me, you should know what I'm really being intentful about, my intentions towards you. The way I treat you, the way I speak to you, the way I move to you, the way I deal with you should let you know what kind of time I'm on, right? And if I'm just after just sex, of course some men do lie, and we know that already, but... right? So I just feel like maybe she missed that part of it, because it's almost as if to say, like, I've got their number. I know how men are. And it's like, baby, you ain't got a number. Just step back a little bit, and just see it for what it really is. Your impact on these men, it didn't go the way you thought it should go. And I'm not saying that you should have gone that first week. Maybe you'd have gone second week. You know what I mean? But you were going. If you're going to continue this behavior, you were going. But yeah, I don't even want to jump in, Sean.
So funny. I was going to bring up that same point about how when you and I were talking and you said that, some women will say like they think men are simple, men are dumb. And she alluded to that. And it reminded me of something she even said during her season, during the episode. And she said, when she had that conversation with Lamar, and she was like proud of herself. She says, like, sucking toes is not for me, but that's really good for you. If that's good for you. And she was like, and that's how I deal with it, because I don't need to reject anybody. I don't need to be rude. I'm paraphrasing. But at the end of the day, she said, like, but it's good for you. Yeah, I get it. And again, that's the New York in her. That's the New York in her. So I understand that. But it is still sarcastic. And at the end of the day, it's going to come off that way. And if you are constantly doing things like that, those slight sarcasms, those little, light little digs, she did it to you a little bit. Like, I want to help you. It's like, help me help you, because you're not getting it, which is what the undertone of that was. Like she was saying to you, you don't seem to get it because you keep asking me the same question. You're not getting it. So let me help you, like you're slow. No, actually, you're not getting it because you're not answering the question, because you're trying to be 2 steps ahead. And I think sometimes, like, we think we're smarter, so we're trying to be 2 steps ahead when we just need to be in the moment. Just be in the moment, and you don't have to worry about being strategic. And I think, again, that comes from her line of work, because that part of her brain is always active. Let me solve this problem. Let me solve this problem for him. Let me solve. No, we're just having a conversation. We're having a conversation, Patricia. We don't need you to solve it. I'm asking a question, you answer, and we can just volley back and forth with each other, right? And I think that's where the defensive comes in, because she thinks she has it. No, you don't have it, because now your default way of handling things you don't like comes out, and that's when the little snarkiness comes out. That's sarcasm. Listen, I continue to work on my sarcasm every day. Sometimes I could even be saying something, trying my best to not be sarcastic, and somebody's like, "Ooh, Sean, that's sarcastic," and I'm like, "Ooh, shucks, I wasn't even trying." Because if you're not constantly in a stage of trying to be self-aware, and this is what I want to hit on the point of, and we're not like, listen, I'm not perfect. I got my stuff too. We're just unpacking this interview to kind of get to know her better. So anybody watching, if Patricia's watching, we're not nailing you to the cross. We're not trying to make you a bad person. We're just saying, hey, listen, we saw the interview. Now, this is how we felt. And this is kind of what some of the things that we wished that could have been fleshed out, that, we could have had the dialogue with you on.
100%, Sean. And it's funny because we've almost had a full circle moment, because when we said earlier on, I said, I do actually understand where she's coming from, right? Because I'm also a problem solver. That's why I analyze relationships the way I do. And then I end up talking to people, and like, that's a little bit of a light bulb moment for me, what you just described, because what you're really saying is, in that moment, I really was just trying to have a conversation. I wanted to have a little bit of back and forth and just be able to see and reason together. You know what I mean? I wanted her to give a pushback in terms of, well, I see it this way, but and then I can push back a little bit and see. And as we reasoned that back and forth, I was hoping that we'd get to a good consensus, right? But we didn't get to that place. But it makes it interesting that you've brought that up, because I'm thinking for myself. I'm thinking from a perspective of learning, that sometimes people just want a conversation with me, and my conversation will end up being, they talk about a relationship, and I'm like, let me solve this motherfucking issue for you. Let me solve the conundrum, okay? I've got the X, Y, Z for you, okay? I'm going to algebra this out, okay? You ain't about to suffer here. I'm going to Pythagoras this out, okay? All right? We going to work this out. Trigger this, okay? That's because that's what problem solvers do. They're always in a space of problem solving. And we speak about men. We talk about men sometimes in this space as well, where women come to us and tell us their situation, and our first thought is to solve the issue. And sometimes we get told they don't want this issue to be solved. They want to have a conversation. So it's a learn for myself, even learning through her situation, that I need to be more aware of that sometimes it's just a conversation. You don't need to solve the issue, right? Because my natural brain is always thinking, solve the issue. There's a problem there, solve it. But that's because you're uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable being in spaces sometimes when I hear a conversation. I'm like, you ain't going to solve this? You're just going to leave it like that. You're just going to leave the algebra on the screen like that. You ain't going to solve it. And I get itchy, because what's happening is, oftentimes you're not validated by standing still. This is what I was talking about in my therapy session. A lot of us don't know, a lot of us were never validated for standing still as kids. We were never validated for just being ourselves. So you have a problem because you always need to solve something, because that's where you get your validation from. If you solve the equation, you get the applause. You get the validation, you get the well done, When really and truly, there's people out here who grew up in houses where their parents validated them without having to do anything, simply because they are their child. And so when you get to sit down and just be able to be, I can't sometimes just be because I'm trying to solve something, because in reality, something in me is saying, solve the issue, and it's subconsciously rooted. So when I do it, it's actually a validation mechanism. So when I do it, it's like, I solved the issue. Yeah, man. I don't literally do that, but it's like, yeah, I've solved it. Subconsciously, I'm like, yeah, I've solved the issue. Of course, that's what I do. I solve issues, bro. I'm the guru when it comes to relationships. What are you talking about? Don't put a thing near me. I'll solve it. But in reality, all you're doing is invalidating the other person, because that's not necessarily what they always wanted, right? Sometimes they don't want an answer. And I've been in that space too. Sometimes I don't want an answer. So, you, Sean, we've spoken recently. I don't want an answer. I just want you to hear me out. And then when I finish, yeah, give me your wisdom. By all means, tell me what you think, whatever, what, et cetera, right? But absolutely, I think that's what I saw. And because she did highlight, there was some, I don't even like saying the word trauma, but let's call it trauma. There were some issues with the mum, which I think is fair. Everyone has these issues with parents. Like, a lot of people have issues with parents. She's closer to her dad, but had issues with her mum. And what she did highlight, and I didn't even go deeper into it, and this is why I love, being able to have these kind of conversations. If you go back and listen to it, the portion where she speaks about her mum, what she said was the issue was she can never really speak up, right? She can never really express herself, right? So this is really important. When you're not able to express yourself, I always tell people, when you're unable to express yourself. For her, she went to problem solving. I also went to problem solving, but in different ways. I chose a different avenue of problem solving. We're in the same boat, but also as well, there's a hidden anger that also often tends to be there. A hidden anger and frustration for her, but for mine was disappointment. Where I went to was I internalized it and made it disappointment. For her, there's a hidden anger there, which is actually behind hurt, right? Not being able to express yourself for such a long time. There's a hidden pain that I think that's behind that space. And that's what that's what comes out, right? And that's also what's going to come out in me. And it won't come out it will come out in my expectations of people. I will lower my expectations for people. No. I said this in my therapy conversation. I said, the reason why I'm late, I now know why I'm late, because I don't think people I don't value my own presence. So I believe that other people don't value my time either. So naturally, it's subconsciously working. That's why I'm late to things, personally. For me, personally. It doesn't mean for everybody. Everyone's had their reason. That's for me. So, when she mentioned that unable to express herself with her mom, I said, that's something there, man. Do you know what I mean? And of course, that's a tough thing to go through. I've been there myself, when you're shut up in your mouth, and so you have to find other ways of being able to communicate and express yourselves. And sometimes problem solving becomes a way of expressing yourself. So actually, if I tell her not to solve an issue, she's going to feel like she's being muted, and that's going to be frustration too. Go for it, Sean.
It's so interesting, right?
I can still hear. I'm just going to grab some water. Go ahead. I'm still hearing you.
Yeah. I think she missed the opportunity to engage in more dialogue with you versus try to solve the issue, and just allow you to explore, ask questions, maybe challenge her a little bit in terms of her perception. And I think she missed that opportunity. And again, I think this is just my observation. And I think that when you leave room to listen more than talk, I think it engages people to you more. I'm not saying you have to be a shrinking violet, or that women should just sit in silence. No, but just be open. And I think that there is a part of her that is closed off and that is guarded. And I believe that's what the fellas sensed, is they sensed that wall that was there. And it can be that wall can be a repellent. And I think a listening ear goes a lot further than a talking head. So yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Definitely hear that. Hey, C-Way. Welcome.
Hey, I didn't even see that you guys were live. I was looking for the little live notification and it never popped up. So I know I'm
Be
late.
like that. It be like that. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about C-Way.
I don't know how
Don't
much
know if
I,
you want to.
yeah.
Yeah, by all means, flow. Go for it.
Yeah, I recently finished the interview. Yeah, I mean, Kojo, I would say you really tried to kind of show her where things were missing or what you were trying to say. My voice is halfway going. Give me a second. You go ahead. My voice is like going.
No worries, C-Way. I understand, man. He was screaming and shouting for leadership on the basketball court.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I need to find my water,
I
my
hope you
stupid
won.
voice. Absolutely not. The boys pissed me off. So here we go. They really pissed me off. I love playing
I'm so
co-ed, but sometimes
sorry.
playing with guys is very frustrating. So
Sorry about that, C-Way. Yeah, no, listen, and again, I want to say it again. That again, she did quite well because she was open to some parts, in terms of her sharing. And so actually, like I said, it actually was a good conversation. But like Sean said, there could have been a deeper exploration because, sometimes I want to try and do, but I really just want to have a conversation because I could see that she's done therapy. So clearly she can really dive into some of these concepts. And when she started speaking about some of the things that she had gone through and she tied in childhood and things, I was impressed. I was like, yo, this needs to be a conversation. This doesn't need to be, I'm trying to test you. This needs to be a conversation. I can see that you've already gone through some therapy. You've already seen some things. You've already, experienced things. This could be a conversation and really we can start to just really dive a little bit deeper and just understand things together and not be a case of I'm trying to do it. You know what I mean? I want to be able to let's converse and move together and see what we're saying. So, but yeah, go for it, C-Way.
yeah, I'll talk as long as my voice lets me. You know how like we talk about guys being at their capacity? What I picked up from the interview was that she was at her capacity for what she was going to be able to pick up and understand from what you were saying. I felt like she was genuinely trying to understand what you were saying, but I think there was a big disconnect there. Like she was getting there, but there was still a really large disconnect. I'm not saying that she's incapable of kind of getting, more towards understanding how she comes off, but when you guys interaction when you were trying to explain, hey, it's your tone. It's your tone. I don't think she was really getting what part of her tone was the problem. She also has, and this is not necessarily her fault. My husband has the same problem. Her tonality of her voice is naturally condescending, and that's not really her fault. She has a condescending tone to her for whatever reason. And when you have that, you kind of have to be careful about how you're speaking because you're not hearing that you're coming off condescending and belittling to others. Like when she said, I want to help you resolve that. That's a condescending, belittling way to say something. Or I think she also accidentally sneak disses on accident. I don't think she's trying to do it on purpose. But like when she says, I feel like you're beating into the ground, so let's work this out. That's like how people talk to you in corporate America. It's very rude, but I don't think she was trying to be rude. I think she comes off as being rude. She also kind of mansplains, but from a woman. I know y'all hate that word, so I'm about to give it to a woman. She's mansplaining, but a woman. For example, men are really simple. They just need you to do X, Y, and Z. It was almost as if she was speaking for men and what they need and not taking into account like you were trying to help her with, the fact that yes, men are simple, but also maybe you are coming off a certain way that they just didn't like you because they're simple-minded. You also were giving them a vibe that they didn't personally care for. So yeah, I understand she did therapy, but I had to disagree with you about her self-awareness. I think she's actually struggling with a severe lack of self-awareness, not a lack of want for self-awareness. Anybody who's in therapy and is as receptive as she was to your to your questions, I think she wants to learn more about herself and to be better, but I think she doesn't seem to have a very good grasp on how she's coming off to others, and that is so difficult to correct. When you have a lack of self-awareness, that is a lifetime journey of understanding how you come off to people. So if you do have self-awareness, it's a gift and you probably get along better with people. But having a lack of self-awareness, a low emotional intelligence, that's not an overnight thing. That takes a lot of time. And I think she's going to have to work on that. And lastly, saying that she was not the person who was supposed to get sent home. I really wish we would have got an answer to that question, because I don't know who she's trying to imply was supposed to go home. Maybe Vanessa? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I have so far. I'm going to rest my voice real quick while y'all talk, but that's what I got.
Yeah, we are on the same page, Seaway, because I know you missed some of the beginnings, but self-awareness is definitely one of the biggest things that we see as just an opportunity for her. And I think and this comes back to this whole production conversation, and maybe all the guys didn't vote for her, and I just think this is a mistake. And I don't think that people should do this either, and I've seen the ladies and the men kind of do this. More ladies than men I've seen do it on Ready to Love, where after they're eliminated, they'll go back and ask, well, who voted for me? Who voted for me? Or if they were in the bottom, who voted for me? Who voted? What did you say? What? And it kind of is what it is, you know? It is what it is. And you just got to let it be what it's going to be. And maybe production had a hand in you being eliminated, but you were meant to go home because it's what happened. And if something is meant for you, nobody can do anything if it's meant for you. And if it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you. So this is when I just kind of felt like her kind of saying that, well, I wasn't the one that was, whoever was supposed to go home is the one that went home. And that's that, and that's that. And ultimately, and this is why, people were even saying it in the comments. Well, if you said you did cheat, you asked her about the Twitter rant, if they were of no value, if you hated everything about the process, then for you, that should have been a freedom. And I think this is where we get into that double talk, right? Because that's not really how she feels, because your reactions were in line with how you felt. When you were eliminated, it hurt your feelings and you felt rejected and you wish you would have had more time in the process. In the story, you might not have liked every guy on there. And guess what? Every guy might not have liked you, but you still wanted to be involved in the process to a certain extent. And there's nothing wrong with that. Whether the show is trash, whether it's an inaccurate depiction of Black love and all of this other stuff, you still wanted to be on there and it hurt your feelings. So I think let's stop doing the double talk, because the double talk is like the defense. Like, oh, there was no good guys anyway. And it just comes off, it never comes off well. It just comes off bitter. And I hate to use that word because sometimes it's overused, but it does come off bitter.
Yeah. Again, I want to say again. Hopefully, if Patricia watches this, this is not an indictment and or try to condemn you. But this really, I think this is really the most loving I think we can be, actually, to kind of point some of this stuff out in the most wholesome way. Because it's just that little bit, and you know what, you're gonna knock it out of the park. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna knock it out of the park. That little bit. I didn't challenge her on the necessarily the comments about the men, but she did kind of make it as if like they were all clapped. But I'm not even vexed at that. Like I said again, the reality is that she didn't find any of them attractive, apart from maybe Chaz. But then she said Chaz was too small. She let everybody know that the guys were too short. Okay, so, and again, that's not a beef. That's just her preference. Again, I'm not mad at that. That's her preference. She likes men at a certain height and wants financial from them. I don't think she's wrong for saying that at all. In fact, I back her. Please don't choose us if we are broke and we are short for you. Okay? Because you're just going to ruin us and we're going to ruin you. Right? But all jokes aside, I do feel like, it is a tough show to go on because, like I said, it does expose people in a particular way. And it does open people up to other people having their criticism of them, which is tough. It's very difficult to go through. And so, I commend her for going through that process, even if she feels like she went out the first time round. What was interesting, I think someone made a comment on the video already, and someone said, I think I asked her why she sounds so guarded in her talk, and she kept saying what all women want. And I think it's the point that Seaway was making. She actually didn't, there was one or two times she didn't actually answer the question directly from her perspective. She answered it from a general perspective. I think Seaway was making this point that she answered it. And it's actually very, like when she said, like I think you said it, Seaway, woman-splaining in a sense, where she was saying, for instance, when I asked her, why does she want a safe a safe zone, right? In the relationship, which of course we talk about it here. We expect safe zones, but why did you want it? And I was expecting maybe to her to say, hey, maybe in the past I've experienced certain things, so I just know that from now on I really want to have a safe space, so I can let my hair down, he can let his hair. I was expecting a bit of an answer that was going to be a bit more specific to her and maybe her experiences, but she said that's what all women want. And I was like, well, why does what all women want mean anything? I want your answer. I want your reasoning as to why you want that. And that's really a weird thing to do, in the sense that when I say weird, as in it's not your normal behavior to do so, to make it a general statement rather than answering it specifically with an I statement, that I want the safe zone because I want da-da-da-da. I mean, she kind of did it on the show, so I don't know, maybe if the pressure of the internet, pressure of being on live, maybe got to her a little bit, and maybe that felt like she had been under attack or anything like that, but I just felt like she didn't answer that question correctly. Ideally, once more again, through the I statement, she used, generalization of the woman or the man wants this, and it's quite interesting to see that kind of take place too, because I think if she used the I, we can actually really get behind that, I don't know if you want to add anything, Sean, to that.
Yeah, I think people do that when they don't want to be vulnerable. Because if I talk about me, then I have to tell you about what's close and personal to me and why that safe space is so important to me. If I'm general, it's almost like, well, everybody wants this. This is just a common thing. Everybody wants somebody to be nice. Yeah, but yeah, everybody wants a lot of things, but why is it important and why is it a value? And then I think that's where that vulnerability comes in, and her having to really truly, bear and open herself up, and that's something she said that, off back, she was honest in saying that she feels like culturally, I think she said due to her Caribbean background, that she feels like a lot of people have that attachment. What did she say? Anxious or avoidant? I'm sorry. I might have misinterpreted which one she said. Did she say anxious or avoidant?
Anxious.
Anxious. Okay. But yeah, no. So, scrap that part of it. But I think the first part still stands in the sense of, I think she does not want to be vulnerable. She didn't want to be vulnerable in that particular moment and kind of reveal that part of herself. And I think that could also come from, too, her wanting to be 2 steps ahead because she didn't know where you were going to go with that next question, right? Because if you ask her, she says, okay, why? Then she's like, okay, well, what's next? What might he ask me next that I don't necessarily want to get into, or that I don't know and I can't anticipate, because sometimes people like that, they want to know everything ahead of time for their own emotional safety. So they don't want to be caught off guard. They don't want to be, they don't want to be taken outside of their comfort zone. And I get it. She's not sitting in a therapy chair, but that's why somebody might do that, because then it pivots it back to you. It's like, yeah, all women want a safe space, right? Well, I guess so, because it sounds like a nice thing to have, but the question really was more about you and why that's something of value. So much so, if all women felt that way, all women in this show didn't say that, So the women listed a couple different things. So why is it important to you so much that you made it a point?
I mean, she probably gets away with doing that in a lot of conversations, either trying to control the conversation, dominate the conversation, or make generalizations in the conversation. I think talking to Kojo, I mean, that's just not going to work. And then being on this large platform and being on Ready to Love, it's natural probably to try to turn inward and try to control things when you're getting this kind of new, just a whole bunch of opinions and people making videos about you. Like, I'm pretty sure it's very overwhelming, and I can't relate. So I do sympathize with that. But I think people don't realize that it's more obvious than they think. The generalizing and the avoiding kind of the real deep conversations for people who are especially not just book smart, but people smart. We see it. And although you may not realize, it's off-putting. And people who realize what you're doing, they're put off by it. And you'll be surprised. Like, I don't know why people think this way. It's because people can see how you're trying to control the conversation or avoid the point of the conversation. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Monique said you were taking it easy on her. I frankly didn't think Kojo was taking it easy on her. I thought he was being nice to her because she's a woman and you should be nice to your guests, but I felt like he tried to hold her accountable as much as you can. I think this goes back, and I don't know if Kojo, this is how you felt, but when you feel like you're pushing up against someone's capacity to understand something at that moment, you don't just keep pushing. I feel like she took in as much as she could at that moment. I don't feel like it was going to get better. I don't know what you thought, but
Yeah, no. I mean, to be honest, I didn't think there was anywhere more I could go with it, because I think if you can't understand that concept of how you impact others, I don't think anything further will be of use. Do you know what I mean? Because I think if we're starting at a level where I'm asking you to understand how you might have impacted others, but you had a different intention, and I have to ask it 3 different times, and then you get pissed off about it, you get a little bit frustrated about it. I think at that point, you just got to that's why I took it. I just like, okay, leave it alone. You know what I mean? Because I can see that it's not going, it wasn't going to go anywhere. And also, I was afraid of I was really afraid of exposing what was behind that wall and it not looking good for her. Because I could, when you can see there's a crack, but some people's cracks, you don't want it to expose. Not because you're afraid of what's happened to you, but I was actually more afraid of what was coming to her, because the frustration was actually building, and she couldn't contain it. One thing about Patricia is she gonna let you know how she feel because her body feels it. Her whole body feels it. So if you watch when I first started questioning, she was like this, then like this, and then like her body, and she's holding herself, and I said, I just need to stop because I feel like we're gonna break you, and then you're gonna cuss and do something wild, and I just don't need you in that space to be doing that. Again, not because we're afraid, but I don't want that for you. I think we can see what we can see. I think we can see enough, but I could see that this was about to. Olga was in battle. You know what I mean? She was in battle, and I was like, okay, I think I just need to just pack my stuff up, and get them moving, because even when I asked her after, hey, look, what accountability do you take hold for this? A more general question. There was none. And I think that in itself explains what we were seeing. It's like, you don't think you have any accountability here? That's gonna be tough to really work with. So yeah, I understand Monique, why she might have said that. I do get why she might have thought I didn't go hard on her, but it's because I noticed that it wasn't hitting anymore. It wasn't going anywhere. Go for it, C-Way.
I think when she does find a partner, she's just gonna have to find a partner that's extremely self-aware, who's willing to kind of be her mirror and is willing to kind of work through some of this stuff. And it's going to be hard, but when you find a loving partner that's willing to kind of be like, hey, that's how that came across, I think slowly but surely it'll come together. But if she finds another partner who's not self-aware and they're both floating in the abyss, having no idea how they're affecting each other and the outside world, it's going to be not so good. So.
And one last thing, let me just say this. I know someone said they wouldn't hire her. Listen, these types of people are the ones that kill it in workplace. Because let me tell you something. I don't care about personal. If you can get shit done, I'd rather follow people who can get shit done. You know what I mean? Like, I can take the occasional madness. If I know that when shit hits the fan, you gonna be making sure everybody's good, I like that. You know what I mean? That's me personally. But I can tell that she's hot on her work. She looks like somebody who's hot on their work. Because people like that oftentimes, I used to have a manager at McDonald's. I used to hate her. Oh my God. Man, I used to cuss her out when I wasn't around her, man. Yeah? Shout out to her husband. Her husband was amazing. But she was annoying. But let me tell you this now. We broke records. Because the way that she dealt with the work itself was second to none. But the way she dealt with people was pissing everybody off. And we also always tell her, your people skills need to improve. But when it came to work, one thing that everybody can guarantee is that shift, you ain't going to run out of your McFlurry. You ain't going to run out of fries. You're going to always have burgers hot and fresh. The drive-thru is going to be packed and ready, but they're going to get their food in record time, right? We could be great underneath her because her skills when it came to delivering were second to none. I don't think always that our people, of course, people's skills are important, and depending on what kind of job you're in, it's helpful. But there are a lot of situations too where people can work alone or people work in a team, but they don't have to work necessarily and be relating as a people person, and they are amazing at what they do. So good that even if you don't like their people skills, you will follow them into battle, because you know why? You want to win too. You want a bonus at the end of the year? I'm gonna follow you because I want my bonus. Yeah, I want my bonus, and I'm gonna follow you because I know that when I follow you, I'm gonna get my bonus at the end of that thing. So, for maybe relationship wise, she may be suffering a little bit, but when comes to work, yeah, she's the kind of person I know drives that ish to the top, and I will always respect people who can do that.
Kojo, her personality reminds me of half of these partners in these law firms, and they'll bring in business, but they make terrible bosses. So do I think that she'd be a great employee? Would I want her to be my senior associate, billing the hours and getting the work done? Of course. Would I want her to be my boss? Hell no. Hell no. Because you're gonna have a lot of turnover. You get the work done, you're gonna get the bills out. But you're gonna have a lot of turnover, because to be a good boss, you actually do need people skills and self-awareness. Otherwise, No, that's. I mean, but look, Sean's an expert at this, so I'll defer. But
I mean, I see her as task oriented, and I think some people, especially people like her, that revel in their accomplishments, they're able to perhaps navigate work situations a little bit better to be successful. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. Now, I don't know, from what I understood of her role, she's not managing people. I know she's doing something slightly different than what she was doing on the show in terms of tech recruiting. So I don't know if she has direct reports or she's working on high level projects. So I don't know if she's managing today, but I do think that she's aware enough to know, like, hey, listen, there's certain things that I have to do in terms to be successful at work. So I think she's going to do everything she needs to do in order to make sure that happens. And this is just me giving her the benefit of the doubt.
well,
Well, if you're listening to this, Patricia, I think you're amazing at your work, and you know what? I'd follow you into battle. Okay, I like people that have that great skill in that workplace. I was gonna say something wild, but I had to hold myself back. But anyway, yeah. So again, any last thoughts, guys, before we pack it up? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, just like I started, I think, like, at the end of the day, these are just observations, right? And I think it just, some of this stuff may be things that don't resonate with her if she's watching, or anybody that's watching. But I think it's always good to see how people perceive you and receive you, because those are things you can tangibly look at and say, hey, maybe I need to kind of take a look and say, this is how I want to be received, but this is how people are actually receiving me. So this is still part of more of the work that I could do. And I think the other pieces, we just, as much as we've done work to heal, to be better, to get over some of the hurts that we've had in our lives and our relationships, I don't think we need to lead with that in our new relationships. It can be food for thought and conversation as the relationship progresses, but I would just say we never want to start from that place. And I don't care what anybody asks. I think it's always better to say, hey, listen, this is what I'm looking for going forward, and this is what I feel good about. And you're always going to reap better results leading with the positives and not the negatives, and what you ain't going to tolerate, and what you hated about what your ex did. Lead with what you want and what you're looking forward to.
my final thoughts are, in a world where people are getting prettier and prettier, right? Now everyone has beat faces, and you have access to all the makeup, Sephora, Ulta, all the BBLs and the tummy tucks. In the world where, look at this season of Ready to Love, majority of the women were way above average, right? Your personality is paramount. You have to be a person that people want to talk to. And that practice is not just with men. If you can't get along with women, if you have people telling you that you have self-awareness issues, or you're not seeing how you come across, that's something to work on. I think we're not putting enough emphasis on our personalities and being personable and being relatable, right, D, and being well-rounded. And just being a person that someone just wants to sit down and have a drink with, have a conversation with, have a free picnic with. It's not all about your money or being a boss chick or any of that. It's about, can you get along with people? So I just feel like that's the takeaway. Really kind of think about how you're coming across in a world full of beautiful women, because that's not going to be the turning point. And not everybody's pretty to everybody, right? So just trying to work on yourself as best as you can, take feedback in stride, and I think that'll be helpful. That's my thoughts.
No, appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. And hopefully, if Patricia's listening again once more, I want to let her know, listen, this is not to break you down and to beat you down, but rather we just wanted to really just have great conversation about what we kind of noticed. And hopefully some of it will really make sense and really resonate. And it may take some time. Like I said in my therapy talk just today, there is frustration even on my part. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. So sometimes you objectively know what it is, but it doesn't sink in as truth, and that's also fine as well. So we understand that can take time, and so this is still a safe place for you, Patricia. This is still a safe place, okay? And so you are always welcome here. And like I said, we don't want it's not a bashing session. It's more of a case of just some things that we kind of noticed as well. So audience members, thank you so much for being so kind and courteous in the chat as well, and keeping the comments respectful as well, and pushing back as well on some of the points too. It's always important as well. This is also a part of our growth as well as a community moving forward as well. Led by Sean, because now he's Mr. Empathy now. So he gonna change his name from Unfiltered to Mr. Empathy. So.
Oh wait, Kojo, can you clarify that y'all aren't beefing? People still think.
Yeah, what people thought we were really beefing. I was like, yo, we're not beefing. Me and Sean, I just like to go hard on Sean. Okay, you can't go hard on the women like that. Go on Sean. So Sean is just, I can go full tilt in my disagreements with Sean. So no, we're not beefing, me and Sean. It's just I like to go hard with Sean, and he's one that can take it. So that's what it is. Sean, are we beefing? Maybe I didn't know. Maybe Sean didn't tell me.
Absolutely not. I responded to one of those people in the comments and I said, no, I promise you we are not. I said it at the end of the live too. I don't know, but I know some of our lives get long and people miss bits and pieces of it, but come on. No,
they're going to come up with a whole story about why y'all into it. There's some behind it. Some in the water ain't clean.
They were like, I saw that comment. They were like, no, this ain't about that. Kojo is mad at Sean. I'm like, that's not even it. I think that same night we were like talking behind the scenes
we
for like 2 hours.
A couple of hours, 2 hours after, So. No, we like to tussle a little bit, and Sean's the only one that can tussle with that way, guys. That's the reason why you see it being so intense. I can't do that with anyone else, so I get to unleash on Sean a little bit, So, but he don't like to tussle with me, so I just look even more worse because I'll be tussling with him, but he'll be tussling by myself. So, how he got UC way is how he got me. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'll be trying to drag him out, but he ain't draggable anymore.
Oh, that's because Sean and I legit be arguing about real stuff. You pick the most random stuff to try to tussle with Sean about. Me and Sean really be into it. But still not for real. But we be disagreeing about some stuff, and then Sean hit me with the I said. That's when we really finna go back and forth. So. I don't know.
That's what it gets behind the scenes. I need to get one of those I said so that I can get one of those. I need
you get a I said. You made it. You made it for
real. That's when you know.
He really threw it away. When he tell you, I am not enjoying you right now. That's when you really upset. That's when you're in trouble.
Oh, damn. Too funny, man. Too funny. But listen, audience, thank you so much. We appreciate y'all for coming through. I don't know if, Sean, you have a benediction. Did you want to give a benediction?
No, I
If you
think
have
we
one.
rounded it out
No?
very well. And
Yeah.
I would just say lastly, again, I want to overemphasize it because I saw a
Please.
couple of people in the channel in the chat, is this is all from a place of love. You know, Patricia, maybe you haven't, you know, experienced the Little Black Book family, but we give things in love. We talk in love, we share in love, because the shows that we mainly dissect are all about love, right? So it's all about the lessons we've learned. So anything we're talking about are things that we've learned or things that we see, and things that, you know, we think are our own opportunities for you. But it's all in love. So that's it.
Love that. Thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate it, honestly. And you know, it's been good. Seaway, thank you for joining us as well. You know, your contribution is always valuable as well. Made some great points, especially about the woman spending part. It added some understanding there as well in that area as well. So, audience, yeah, thank you so much. We'll be back. I'm talking to Monte now, and we're going to organize his interview too, and I'll try and keep it rolling each week as well, guys. Or I'll try and keep myself in contact with the people and get it each week for you guys as well. So you got lives every week with the interview. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked in it, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. Okay, all right. Remember, we're not building walls. Okay, we're not climbing them. And we certainly ain't sliding down them. Okay, all right. So be blessed, and we'll see you again very, very soon.